What is the biggest challenge that you found? Was it just managing the moods of these different dogs that are suddenly put together in the same spot?
Yeah. So not not a lot of people that were working in the company were at my level of understanding dogs. There were some people who were, but they didn't speak English very well, so the company owner couldn't communicate too well with them. Um, so I pretty much ended up taking over and running the whole team.
Oh,
Um, and yeah, that was challenging as well. I think even more so than the dogs because you, you know how to communicate with a dog, so it's easy. You communicate with a dog, the dog gets it, and then the dog doesn't do what you don't want it to do, or does do what you do want it to do. But trying to explain to people who don't understand what's going on from scratch, it's tricky.
should we review how things went for you from the beginning? Like you got this job offer, and that must have been a nice feeling. And then
Yeah.
you followed it up and you were hired, and that must have been nice. Now you were already in New Zealand looking, was that right? I think you were, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how it worked out was I got off the plane and I went and sorted out a place to live. So I stayed in a camper van in Red Beach, Auckland. So lovely place, lovely holiday setting, already all calm. Then I got my first interview, so that was a little you're concerned about, oh, will I get the job? And then it's how many more interviews I've got. And I ended up getting the first job that I applied for uh, within an hour of my interview.
First interview.
Because what they did was they took me in for a questionnaire interview where you just have a chat so they can assess whether you know dogs or not. And then they put you out in a paddock and throw all the dogs at you and see how you cope. So it's a bit of a sink or swim situation. And most people who are going to struggle with that will actually opt out after the paddock session. But it was pretty easy. So
For you.
yeah, for me. And then I bonded well with the Serbian in the interview because now in the police and government dog world, they have command sets, and a lot of the command sets overlap from one country to another. And I actually said a word "fui," which is a reprimand for a dog. It means don't do that. While I was in the paddock, and the Serbian came over and, did you just say "fui"? Oh, we used that as well, and there was that bond already. And then, of course, the way I was communicating with the dogs in there brought everyone else in as well. So by the end of that first interview, I mean, I'd got the job. I'd developed a relationship with the team. Everything worked out great. So I was in a bit of, I think I was a bit stunned. I didn't expect everything to work out that well. You know, I thought I'd have to go to a couple of interviews, but coming from South Africa, where it's extremely difficult to get a job, you almost have a bit of a, it's not negative, it's
Nervous that it's impossible, or you don't
yeah,
know?
you don't want to be too optimistic.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was a pleasant surprise that I got the first job that I applied for on the first day, and that was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally unexpected.
Yeah.
I think we tend to be very pragmatic and cynical. I think that's probably the
Okay. Yeah.
You don't expect good things to happen all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're kind of waiting for something to go wrong.
Where's the catch?
And that must have been good news for you, Angela, hearing
Yes.
that, and that it's it was a way in. You made
Yes,
it.
absolutely.
Yeah. That's good.
Absolutely. So we knew we were on the right track, and
Yeah.
it was going to happen for us.
Now, Angela, you also have a professional background, police and logistics. Were you able to find, or have you, what have you decided to look around for work?
Well, a funny story, I've ended up working with dogs as well.
Oh,
So
yeah.
yeah. So my first like sort of 4 weeks here, I was still kind of on holiday mode almost. And then when I started looking for a job, sort of admin positions and things, there were a lot of people applying, and then COVID lockdown happened. So and during lockdown, I was obviously applying for logistics positions and admin positions, but there were so many people trapped in the country. Obviously, the borders were closed. So you had hundreds of thousands of people applying for the same position. And they were looking at only employing locals and not foreigners, which, you know, totally understandable.
Yeah. That was a tough time.
Yeah, so from that, I actually went into the dog industry, and
Great.
I've stayed.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, so you like it. It's a rewarding.
It's amazing. It's so much better for me personally, not to sit behind a desk, because that's what I did for 25 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's different.
Yeah, the industries, you mentioned it was quite developed. So this is about people usually traveling. They just go there because it's easier, and people love their dogs, and it's reasonable to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then the clients must be quite interesting. The relationship, you have to have some skills, right? Because these are very different kinds of people. Some are relaxed, some are very, they want you to treat their dog 24 hours, and no one else, no other dog should have your attention.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
That's great. So how do you find the work experience in New Zealand as far as a work-life balance or management styles, that sort of thing, compared to your home country in South Africa or other countries you've been in?
Different.
Yeah.
Completely different. For me personally, and I'll let Jason answer as well, my experience is completely different. I came from a very high pressurized, well, both of us did come from high pressurized jobs, you know, intense deadlines, huge amounts of work. The volume of work you were doing would have, if you compare it here, it would be 2 or 3 people doing one person's job back in South Africa. And you held on to that no matter how difficult it was, because we didn't have job security. And if you lost your job, you know, you would either battle, or you would never find another job, or you'd have to try and create your own business, etc. So very, very different. And obviously in terms of income here, you can earn minimum wage and still survive.
Right.
You might not be living a very comfortable, lavish lifestyle, but you can pay, you know, you can pay your rent or your mortgage, you know, provide food and electricity, etc. Bare necessities, where in South Africa it's different.
My experience since we got here has been, that New Zealand is incredibly different to most other places I've worked. So I found I was in South Africa, and even when I worked with the States, they had a lot of, this is how it works, this is the structure, it's A, B, C, D, and it's on a rigid frame, and you cannot make any changes to this whatsoever. Whereas here in New Zealand, it seems to be whatever the requirements are, that's what you need to deliver. And after that, things are flexible. So if you want to deliver more, that's up to you. If you don't, that's also up to you. So I found it a lot more relaxed. I think, and in our case, because of where we come from, we sort of just went into overdrive and like, oh, okay, right, we've done that already. Now let's do the next thing. And we're like, no, you need to slow down. No, we can't slow down. We just go. And I think a couple of people probably looked at us like we were crazy. But
overachievers.
I mean, our employers obviously appreciate that, because it's you never had to worry about deadline because it got met. You never had to
Yeah.
worry about achieving a goal
Yeah.
because it was done. You know, the next project down the line you were concerned about was probably done already by the time you're off. Oh, can you do it?
Yeah.
And then, you know, so they loved it, and it developed a good relationship with us for, well, in pretty much every company that we've worked
Yeah.
with and been affiliated with
Yeah.
since arriving.
Yeah.
And there've been a few.
Yeah. Yeah.
You've been at a few places since then.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's another question that's quite interesting to me. You coming in from abroad, but your first place you did really well and you earned a good reputation, and then you had a local reputation. Now you can go anywhere. Is that true, or is that partially true, or was that your experience?
Well, my reputation developed far more at my second company than it did at my first. So it started there. But Berkeley Manor really put me on the map because they had the TV series. So
Oh,
I've been on television here
oh,
doing what I do. And
great.
now everyone can see it. So I mean, I walk into a store and I have people saying, it's in the episode they had a dog that goes wandering off, and we had to go and locate him. One of the common phrases that came out of it was, "Where's Charcoal?" Because that's the dog's name. So now every time I walk into a dairy or anything, I got people saying, "Hey, where's Charcoal?" You know, or "Hey, you that guy?" Yeah, that's me. So yeah, you can get what is it? Isn't recognition isn't really the word.
Famous.
Yeah,
Well,
but famous
I
or
wouldn't say
infamous
that.
very quickly.
Yeah.
And people discovering what you're capable of happens pretty quickly over here compared to SA or the US, where you have a lot more competing to do
Yeah.
before you get there.
Yeah.
So I think that the window between you being able to stop working from someone else and start your own business is a far shorter time frame here than it would
Yes.
be
Yes, right.
anyhow.
Well,
Yeah.
let's be fair also, Jason, to your background, because you weren't starting on the average place. You've been around the world. You've been given letters of reference, high recommendation from different countries, including the US, South Africa. You've been on
Yeah.
police and also military, right? You're a dog guy. You're a high level dog guy.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. True.
it does help to have the credentials, but I wouldn't say it's essential because Ange entered the market, and she worked at our South African company before and done some rescue work. She entered the market and she built a reputation that's pretty much as strong as the one I did
Oh, great.
with my credentials,
Yeah.
because it's a different industry,
Yeah.
but it's still dog related, but it's more care and not function.
Not working dog.
So yeah, I mean there is still an aspect of the
Sure.
working dog trainer that comes into play, and you tend to stabilize a group of dogs far faster than a lot of other people would because you understand behavior. But from the care aspect, I'd say Angela's top dog there.
I think yeah, being a woman as well, you know,
yes.
we have the nurturing side. So
Yeah.
obviously we have our strengths and weaknesses, and that just happens to be a strength.
Great. You both overlap in that. So you both
Yeah.
are a good team.
Yeah.
You mentioned starting your own business. Is that what you ended up doing?
Well, we're flirting with it at the moment.
Yeah.
Because we've we moved from one company to the next company,
Yeah.
and then
That's our plan for this year. I think ultimately
yeah, I want to get
2023 will be the year that we sort of start up our own business and then stop working for somebody else and actually work for ourselves.
exclusively.
But just this little exchange that we're having opens the eyes to people about your strengths.
Yeah.
We would have the name of that show and have this Where is Charcoal event, just a short clip thrown in. What was the name
Okay.
of the show?
It's the Barkley Manor. It's called Barkley Manor. It was on TV NZ1. One of the best known dog daycares in Auckland.
Okay.
And I think they were one of the first that started up 14, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's
You both were in the movie, or was it just Jason at the time?
Angela's in as well.
But in the second season, which they're still busy editing at the moment, so that will be aired sometime this year.
Okay.
But yeah, Jason was in the first. I wasn't in the first season.
You were in a couple of shots there.
Yeah, background, not.
Yeah, that's okay. That's good. It all counts.
Funny story. The lady who was the director of the first TV series, she isn't involved with the second series that they were busy filming last year. We've been looking after her dog Frank, who's at our house, and she's picking him up this afternoon. So
great.
we had him boarding with us over New Year's for a few days.
So you are starting your own business.
Yeah, I mean, this is just, very small. I wouldn't even call it a business, but yeah. Yeah.
I like the story that you've been on, Angela and Jason. You were both in high stress country, in high stress jobs.
Yeah.
Your love of animals came through in the end, and you got on a local TV show, and you were going from strength to strength at all of these different places that you worked in, just really performing well and making a name for yourself as you went through. And now you're sitting in a totally different spot than you were before. As far as, do you feel yourself psychologically or emotionally, do you feel that yourself more calm and like your purpose is more defined, or your direction is more clear, things like that?
Yeah, it is a lot easier, I think, when you don't have all those other things influencing your mind, basically. That you're not stressing about outside factors, crime, poverty, all those kind of things, and you can actually focus on your goals and then make them happen.
So any other things come to mind in that area about the differences, either positive or negative?
Well, as far as from our perspective relative to dogs, I found that particular industry is so much bigger here, even though New Zealand's smaller than SA, than it was back in South Africa. There's so much more available for people to do with their pets over here, as opposed to back home. And then environmentally, I mean, we quite often, my job was to take a group of dogs off lead and just run them through a forest. And I had to have control with my voice. So they had to want to come back to me, and I had to do a bit of training to get them to an ideal. But we've actually since done that just for fun with our own dogs as well. So yeah, they're the experience of nature and getting out into nature more often is geez, I mean, I can't even put a percentage on it. So I mean, you drive out of a city, and 5 minutes later you're in a beautiful scenic rural setting with access to the beach if you want it. It took a bit of getting used to. But I mean, it's still wow. You could be in traffic and you're stuck in traffic, and it's like a typical urban setting, and then 5 minutes later you're out in the country. And it's quite different to anywhere else.
Mm.
Yeah.
I don't need to ask, would you do it all over again? You'll say yes, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, we would definitely do it over again, but there are things that we would have changed. And obviously no one knew that, you know, COVID-19 lockdowns were going to happen. That was completely out of out of anyone's hands, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, there would have been small things that we would have changed. But you know, you can always do that in hindsight. It's perfect sight. So you can always look back thinking, oh, you know, we should have done this. It would have given us a jump forward, or things that we were stressing about or worried about. Now we know, oh, that was a waste of time. You didn't even need to worry about those things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things I would have done differently is, so Ange came over first to look for a job, and then when she came back, then we contacted you,
Yeah.
and then you helped me from before I even got on a plane.
Yeah.
So I would have actually contacted you first before even
Yeah.
sending Ange over, because I think the
Yeah.
outcome would have been different if she'd been prepped and gone through your process
Yes.
to assist her in how to set up interviews and
Yeah.
how everything works. Yeah. She would have walked
Yeah.
into things a little bit more prepared
Yeah.
than the way we handled it ourselves, and it didn't
Yeah.
work out. I mean, I'm evidence that, you know, the process we followed with you works.
Yeah. That's true.
That's a really good point. A lot of people will call me from New Zealand in a panic after coming, and it's always better to prepare before you can. The thing is, most people don't know that you can prepare, and how that helps you get meetings faster when you
Yes.
prepare in advance. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I
Exactly.
appreciate that. What specifically helped you the most? Do you remember looking back as far as getting to that yes, getting to that job offer, getting into the meeting and knowing what to say and that sort of thing?
Yeah. So after the phone call that we made from South Africa, and I actually spoke to the owner. She actually phoned back again a couple of times to confirm things. And she was out of country when we booked the interview.
Yeah.
They were in South Africa.
Yes.
Yeah, they were actually in South Africa when we booked the interview.
Yeah.
So by the time I got there, they pretty much developed a relationship with me to begin with. And it was just confirmation.
Yeah.
Oh, you're going to be out on this date at this time, so we can make sure we're in the same place as you and not forget about the interview. Have you arrived in the country? All of that. But it was just minor details to sort out, and then the interview happened. And it wasn't emails and online, because the telephone call, you actually knew the voice of the person, so you knew who you were speaking to.
Yeah.
You could recognize them when you saw them, and they spoke to you. You knew that was the person. Little things like that.
Yeah.
They developed a partial picture of who you were and what type of
Right.
just from conversations before that, leading up to the interview.
Yeah. So when I hear your voice, I'm getting, even if I don't see you, I'm getting a lot more content as far as understanding personality versus a CV, especially if I see 1,000 CVs per month, but I might have 3 or 4 conversations with job applicants per month. And
Yeah.
those 3 or 4 are more memorable than the 1,000.
Yes. Absolutely.
And something else I'd like to add is, even the interviews that I booked for after the one where I got the job, now I contacted each of those people and said thank you, but I've managed to get work, so I won't be making the interview. And I had one of them actually phone me back a week or two later and asked me, hey, did everything work out for you? Are you still taking that job? Are you sure you don't want to come down and interview with us anyway.
Yeah.
And I actually said, well, thanks for the offer, but no, I'm comfortable where I am.
Yeah.
So that kind of thing, which probably wouldn't have happened if it was just email based. You hadn't actually developed a partial relationship with a person. And that was one of the security companies that kept in touch with me.
Ah, so you actually, yeah, this is actually very interesting because we were initially looking for the security market, and we kept the idea for other job opportunities as well, but we were targeting, I thought, the private security market. Police, I thought, for foreigners is pretty tough. It's probably a no-go, but the private security, I thought, because I've done that before, and I saw that as a fit. But you had a guy actually call you back from private security because your skills are real right up there.
Yeah. So and yeah, I mean, since then, so I think, in spite of the fact that I got one job, I'm pretty certain that the behavior of that person, whether they be a manager or the owner of the business, I can't remember. I'm pretty certain I would have got that one as well.
Sure.
So that would have been 2 out of, and we don't know about the others, but I did get response from every person. I said, please cancel my interview for this date because I've managed to get a job, and thank you for considering me. So I think, and I actually got a response from them saying, thank you for letting us know, and good luck with whatever you're doing. So yeah, I mean, in the SA, there's a lot of, you won't hear back. You'll send a mail to a company and they either won't reply to you at all, or you'll have a little interaction, and as soon as you say something that like, oh, I'm not taking a job, well, you won't even get a thanks for letting us know. You'll just get
a number.
Yeah, you don't hear from them again.
Okay. Yeah. How many total meetings did you have arranged? Was it more than a few?
I think he had about 10 or 12.
Great, great. You did really well, Jason. You did really well. So this is a credit to the process, which I'll take credit for. The process does work, but without that background, that's what really the motivation. First, they have to understand who it is, and we did that, but then they have to like that job fit enough to say, I want to meet this person. So that goes to your background and your hard work.
Yeah.
And there was, you got to have the drive to want to meet your goals. And your prospective employer's got to see that. I mean, it's part of being a good fit. So yeah.
So Angela, you changed. Aren't you glad that Jason got his job first so that you could switch into this new lifestyle?
Absolutely. It made it easier for me, not so much for him, because then he was on the restricted work visa. So it was harder for him, obviously. When he did change jobs, we had to apply for a whole new work visa. Or not a whole new work visa, what do you call it? A variation of conditions, because it was the same type of job, just with different companies. But yeah, it was a lot easier for me. And I did a little stint for 6 months after I worked for the first company for 6 months, which was a dog company, doggy daycare, different to the company that he worked for. And then we were still having a lot of issues with COVID. Borders were still closed, and we were worried about sort of job security. So I went into an essential work where I was doing picking and packing of fruit in Auckland. And not something I would ever have thought that would have been a job that could provide an income for
That you could
two
survive
people
on.
that you could survive on. But
Yeah.
yeah, I did it for 6 months.
Yeah.
I realized it would have been a lot easier to do that if I was 20
Yeah.
and not 40 something.
Yeah.
So after 6 months, or towards the end of 6 months, I said to Jason, I can't keep up with this anymore. It's I'm feeling every single muscle and every single bone in my body is telling me, no, lady, you're a little bit too old for this kind of. And then he happened to get his job at Berkeley Manor. He was almost headhunted for that job. There was a lot of going back and forth with the owner at the time, and she had offered him a job, and then he was looking at something else, and then he went back to her saying, oh, is the job still available? And then she said, oh no, sorry, it's been filled. And then a little while later she phoned him back again, oh no, we've got something else, you know. So there was a lot of communication back and forth where she obviously realized the value and his skills that he had and really wanted him for the team. So when he started working there, it was about 2 months in, and I got offered a job as well. So then I switched over, and we were there for 2 years. Yeah.
That's the majority of your time here was there.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
So
and we
on,
only recently left them a few months ago.
you're on a TV show together. That's really great.
That's crazy. Absolutely crazy.
I'm going to look that up. That's just a really, my wife is going to enjoy that because firstly, your story is really, really great. I mean, who doesn't like that story where you're coming in on this super challenging country and lifestyle and industry.
Yeah.
And then you come in and you're working with fluffy dogs. Of course, it's more difficult than it sounds, but because I know there's a lot of things going on, but yeah, it's a cute story. And then to hear you're on TV, she's going to be impressed with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Like we would always joke, Jason would often say that you get to play with people's dogs and get paid for it all day. You know,
exactly.
What a lovely job. And even we used to joke about when he used to take these group of dogs to the forest, you know, Monday to Friday. And you get to walk through a beautiful forest. It's so calming and peaceful, and it's beautiful. And you just happen to have anything between 12 and 16 dogs, you know, that are enjoying. And if you like us and you enjoy being with dogs, it sounds like heaven. And you're getting paid for it. I mean, you know, it's crazy.
Exercise, it's outdoors, it's relaxing. We have animals, and animals are more fun to be with than people at times because you never get those arguments, right? Personality conflicts.
And they all love you.
Yeah, they love you. Yeah.
Yeah. It's good.
Such a great story. You found your place. You're here. You're a Kiwi now. Are you residents yet?
Yes.
Great. Well done.
Thanks.
This is about entering into the abyss. You know, it's always like that. We like to think we're targeted. We like to think we're going to find exactly what we want. But there's an element of unknown, isn't it, when you step into that new territory? And you found your way.
Yeah.
It wasn't all song and dance. We had some challenges along the way, and there was COVID, but I found I was very fortunate the whole way through. When I lost a job, I found a job. I didn't have to leave and come back. When COVID hit, Ange got in. Our dogs didn't, but Ange did. So we had to wait, I think it was 11 months before we could get our dogs over. But they're okay. They survived. They're okay. You know, there were some stresses, and it wasn't all just easy, but it definitely was worth it. And from where we are now, I'd say we've gotten through to a point where we can now relax. You know, once that residency is there, you feel like you got some breathing room.
Well, I see a great opportunity for both of you to own your own business. I think as a couple, you cover the whole picture very completely as far as the care and the structure, and then the personality and the background. You've got the branding done. I mean, you've got high high value branding already working for you,
Yeah.
and the reputation as well.
Yeah.
And a couple of questions come to mind. One, for people who are abroad wondering what is the best way to bring a dog in and the cost and what they can expect the challenges are. I've heard that it's 6 months and it's Christchurch.
No, the quarantine is now only 10 days.
Okay.
So providing there's no border closure and lockdowns, it's pretty simple. You know, there's a few tests and things that you need to do in your home country, blood work and things for the dogs, that you've got to follow, and that can take a few months. But once that's sorted out, you basically just have to book their air travel with a travel company. They fly the dog over for you. It goes into quarantine for 10 days and they're here. So very, very simple. It is very expensive depending what your currency value is. With South Africa, obviously, the currency is not great, so it wasn't exactly in our favor to convert everything from South African rands to New Zealand dollars.
Yeah.
But depending if you're from a different country, it might not be the same. So for us, it was extremely expensive, but worth every cent.
I love it as well. So it seems like they've streamlined the time that your dog's in the system when you're moving it from your country you're leaving to New Zealand. So you'll have it at home for a lot of the time, like when Ange mentioned the months that it takes leading up to leaving. You just need to make your appointments.
Yeah.
And then, so if they need your dog to be chipped, you need to get to that appointment, get your dog chipped. You need to time it so that if your dog needs to be chipped 6 months before you leave, your dog is chipped 6 months before you leave.
Yeah.
And then make sure that you make all your vet appointments on the day that you book them, so that your dog doesn't miss a shot that it needs, or a scan or anything like that. And then you pretty much hand it over, I think it's between a month or 2 weeks from the date of departure.
Yeah. Very quick.
So your dog's pretty much in the system for 3 weeks to a month, and then it's back with you again.
Yeah.
And part of that time you're going to be traveling and moving,
settling in,
packing your bags, all of that as well. So you really, you'll have them back before you know it.
Yeah.
That's encouraging.
Yeah.
And it's about $3,000 a dog, depending on which company you use.
Yeah.
So that exchanges 3,000 New Zealand dollars, and that was back when we flew over per dog. It might have changed now, and I suppose
I think it would have changed now, because when we flew our dogs down the borders, well, when our dogs eventually came out, the borders had just opened. So the flights had gone up, the price of quarantine, everything had gone up. So even though we had paid everything in full, February of 2020, they were supposed to fly out, and then the borders closed, there were no more flights. And then they were in a boarding facility for 11 months. So we had to pay for that. Obviously, when we could fly them out and they started getting flights into New Zealand for pets and obviously for people, the cost had gone up. So I think it would probably be cheaper now.
Okay.
I don't know how much. Obviously, we haven't looked into it, but I think at that time it was just $3,000 per dog, and we had 2 dogs that we were sending in because of COVID.
That border lockdown changed everything. Did the dogs how long did it take for the dogs to recognize you after this 11 months?
For my German Shepherd, it was instant. For our Bull Terrier, it took her a minute or two. She was too scared to actually come up to see us. And I think because it was probably quite traumatic for them. They had been, besides being away from us for so long, they'd had so much change. So, you know, going from our home to the boarding facility for one, then they had to be put on an airplane, which they'd obviously never flown anywhere before. And it was quite a few hours. the layover was in Singapore, and there was a problem with the plane, so they were stuck an extra 24 hours in Singapore. So there was just like one thing after the other. When they eventually arrived in New Zealand, climate is different. I'm sure they would have noticed, you know, the air smells different, the water tastes different, everything is different. They were there for 10 days together. And then the day that we picked them up, she was very, very nervous to come up the stairs. It took Jason having to go down the stairs to actually touch her and let her smell before she realized, oh, it's mom and dad.
Oh, I know this. I know this guy.
But it took a few minutes.
Yeah. All right. You're very lucky to so many of my clients and people that I've heard about and read about. It was such a struggle being split by the border as a couple, and families and children being split for months, for more than a year. It's incredible.
Yeah. It was terrible seeing all the stories at the time, and some women had newborn babies and their husbands were stuck in this country and hadn't even met their baby, you know, and it was the child was over a year before they could fly out to meet their father. So I think that was very hard for some families. We were very fortunate because I got in about 5 weeks before the borders closed. So no, it was 5 weeks. Very lucky.
I welcome you anytime you're in Nelson. It's a beautiful place. You'll make a lot of money. You'll have a someone looking out for your business there during the month of vacation. You'll tour around a bit, and then you'll stop by Nelson, and I'll meet you, and we'll have a coffee or a lunch, and I'll show you around a little bit here.
Sounds lovely.
Yeah, I look forward to being able to do that.
Yeah. We've seen a lot of pictures of Nelson, and it looks beautiful down south. That's also one of our goals, you know, in the next 5-year plan, I would think 5-10-year plan. We'd really like to move down south. We are aware it gets colder because that's what everyone throws at us. Oh, but you're from a tropical climate and it's so cold down there in winter. We'll be fine.
Yeah, you'll be fine. Yeah,
we'll be fine. But we'd really like to move down south at some stage.
It'll be like the difference between, oh, okay, but it's 0 degrees there, but it's -20 there. At some point, it's so cold it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's bizarre. Even just in Auckland itself, from one town to the next, it's
don't try and predict the weather.
Yeah.
I used to do quite a bit of driving, so I'd go to Auckland from where we stay at a place called Carcap. We'd work at the facility there until 10 o'clock, and then I'd load all the forest dogs and drive back out to Carcap to go to a forest, let them have a run through the forest and take them on an adventure, then bring them back, clean them up, reload them and drive back in. I mean, you could have it belting with rain on the way up and then the sun's blazing on the way back.
Weird.
Or you could actually have the route up. You'll drive at in the city, the sun shining, and then on the highway you'll get a downpour that's so bad that windscreen wipers have to be on high speed just to see the road. Then by the time you get to the forest, the sun's out again.
It's island weather.
Yeah, island weather. That's it. Yeah.
Very strange.
Well, I think you've got something there that's a quality of life, and you could even make it into your own reality show, or you might invite some of those people back again to redo, like to continue the story with you. Who knows? I mean, it sounds like people enjoy that kind of a story, just pets and the challenges of pets, and these little dramas like, where is the charcoal?
Yeah.
I guess it happens from time to time.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, we've had a couple of people from the old company, so we're a bit more selective on dogs that we take care of now because it's our option. Anyway, when we did it for the company, so there are some from the old company that we can take, and that it's is not too much of a problem, and we can manage it. So we're being responsible and sensible. And a couple of my favorites have just recently popped in to visit us for a couple of days at a time,
Oh, great.
because others know that I will miss their dogs pretty badly.
Ah,
Had a
Yeah.
very good bond with them. They were very close to me.
okay.
Also from the forest. And it's funny enough, it was the dogs that people had the biggest challenges with before I got here, that I ended up I had the strongest bond with. The one used to disappear in the forest and not come back. His owner had to drive up there and go pick him up from the boss's house.
After looking for him for hours.
Yeah, in 2 years working the forest, I never lost him once. So he came back every time. But I just changed a couple of tactics that they were using. And I built a good relationship with him. And we actually sent him home with Mom yesterday morning because he came and visited us for a while.
For a few days.
And
Yeah.
then one of my other favorites, she was a bit sensitive. She got attacked always by two dogs. So I think when they approached her, she got nervous and gave them an indication that she wasn't comfortable with them being close, and they both latched onto her. So she had a couple of issues. And now I'm putting her on a bus and driving her. So I had to coax her through that, and I built a rapport with her through doing that. And she's fine now, but you do miss seeing them. So I had her around for a while. You build a bond with the owners then as well. Yeah, I suppose it's not bond.
Yeah. You build a relationship with the clients when you working with their dogs, because you're keeping them updated of the behavioral changes, and so that they can also reinforce anything at home, and they know how to handle their dog in public situations.
Yeah.
So you build a good relationship with them, and then, you know, even though we've left Berkeley a few months back, we've still got that relationship with some of the clients, and we still get to see the dogs, which is lovely.
And then they also know, I mean, you'll notice, oh, you're having this behavioral issue and that behavioral issue with your dog. And then your dog starts, certain people start working with your dog, and all of a sudden that all disappears, and you end up with a more well-rounded, happy dog with a better character and less issues. You're gonna say, oh, okay, well, since that person's been around, this has been the case. And then you want your dog to be around that person more. And then that just works out great for everybody.
Yeah.
So we were very fortunate like that.
I want to ask you an industry question because the assumption for me might be incorrect. I would think your attitude, your ability to manage dogs and improve their personality from the point of view of an owner, I think that must be rare. And I think most dog and catteries, the stories I hear from other people, because I haven't experienced it myself, they the majority of them say that our dog is worse or our cat is worse because there must have been some trauma, but they don't know what the trauma was.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it happens.
Yeah, that's quite often the case. And then systems and structures and the way a dog would normally develop if humans weren't involved, and the way it develops when we are, and particularly this industry where you're forcing them to do a whole lot of things which they wouldn't naturally do. You're requiring that they behave in a pack structure without enforcing their own discipline. So a dog comes and takes your stick, you can't just chew its face off and all of that. You're pretty much making a dog function in a way that's socially acceptable to humans and dogs.
Yeah.
So you just overlap it
Yeah.
until they check all the right boxes and none of the wrong ones.
Yeah.
And there you go.
Yeah.
Now you've got a dog that'll work well in a social environment with humans, in a social environment with other dogs, outdoors, indoors, public park, daycare.
Yeah.
Now that owner can take their dog to any daycare,
Yeah.
well, within reason. I mean, if it's chaos daycare and they don't enforce any
Yeah.
rules or have any standards or requirements, then your dog's going to go downhill because of what it's exposed to. But if they have staff that know what they're doing and they understand behavior well, your dog will do well there, provided your dog has worked through all its issues and has the social skills to do well. It'll do well anyway. So when somebody makes that effort or puts that investment in your dog, even though there's no financial return to them to do it. I mean, I was working for another company. I was going to get my paycheck for doing my job, regardless of whether I did the extra. But I mean, it's a living creature that you can see that is struggling with a couple of issues, and if you can help them through it in the course of your day-to-day life, you just do it. So both me and Ange have helped a lot of dogs with some minor issues, some moderate issues, and some rather severe issues. And you know, recently some extremely severe issues as well, and managed to return stable dogs to the owner, which is good in a lot of perspectives. Business down the line, you built a reputation, people have faith in you. Peace of mind, well, who doesn't sleep better at night knowing that they've done that, not just for a dog, but the family as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I hope I answered the question.
Yeah, you more than answered the question. I just have another idea. It seems to me when you have a culture like that with, as you say, 13, 16 dogs or whatever, bringing in one additional into 16 that's already behaved, that one is going to get trained up very quickly in that new social structure.
Yeah.
It also
can also create chaos though, if it's one who's bringing in a lot of problem issues.
Okay.
Now, one dog will change the entire pack.
Yeah.
And then how the pack's responding to that one dog will change the response and the temperament and the stress levels of the team members there, depending on how well they're equipped to cope with it. So it does. One addition can change the whole environment. But you're right. The pack will stabilize that dog, because generally what a pack will do is they'll look to the person for the guidance and the rules and whatnot. Some dogs will solve their own problems, but in an environment like that, you'd prefer them to come to you for solutions. Then you solve it with what we call socializing with their teeth. You know, so you don't want them biting each other because they're upset or anything. So you pretty much create a social ideal that you want the dog to conform to, and you pretty much just help it to meet those requirements. Some dogs will take 5 minutes. They're just smart enough to work it all out. The owners have done significant work with them already. They're just fantastic from the moment you get them. Others take a bit longer, anything from weeks to months.
We have a dog like that.
I see Angela smiling. I think there's something going on with this.
His dog, his bull terrier, we always joke, because my dog is the German Shepherd, who's the intelligent dog, and then we have the bull terrier who's not so intelligent. So even at home, we can see the difference, where you can teach the shepherd something and you'll pick it up, if not instantly, very quickly, and 5 months later she's still learning step one. Like people,
like people. And I guess it may change a little bit on the different roles that are involved.
Yeah.
Different things. You mentioned about being selective. What are things that an example of something today after you've learned to develop a good pack here and what you want to have in your business? What would be an example of an animal that you would say no to?
Oh, there's a whole long list of things.
Well, primarily aggression.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
because you're now in a situation where you have multiple clients' dogs that you're responsible for all of their dogs.
Yeah.
So you have to be and responsible being the operative word there.
Yeah.
So if anything happens where one client's dog bites another client's dog, it's your fault because
Mhm.
you should have been able to assess that that was coming, and you should have been able to take steps to avoid it.
Yeah.
So, and it's not the most forgiving industry because it's pretty much like, I mean, people feel the same way about their pets as they do about their kids.
Yeah.
And some people, in some cases, their pets are the kids because they can't have children
Mhm.
or choose not to, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
So they love them, and they will take it rather extremely seriously if you have to report to them, oh, your dog's full of holes. It got attacked by another dog or something. And you know, it's a horrible thing to have happen.
Mhm.
So make the effort to do everything in your power to avoid it. And if you have to say no to a dog because it needs some work done on issues, you're better off saying no to the dog than letting it exhibit the behavior when you could have avoided it.
Yeah. And then there's also other things like obviously we work with dogs, so we know a lot about different types of dogs, different breeds, different categories, whether they're working dogs, herding dogs. So depending on the group of dogs that you have staying with you or that you have with you for the day, you might know that a specific, say for example, a border collie who is a working dog but also a herding dog, if you've got a lot of hunting dogs, you might have an incident there because the border collie is going to try and herd all those dogs, and those hunting dogs will react. You would be selective in that way because you want a cohesive pack, you want everyone to get along at the end of the day. So you might choose specific days, or you might say to the owner, this week is not good, but next week you know, we would have a whole bunch of herding dogs together, and then they would be a cohesive pack. Then there's other things like age. I don't necessarily want a 6-month-old puppy or younger because they're hard work. They're older, you know, and it's puppies have to learn a lot, and if you've got a lot of older dogs, they're going to get irritated with the puppy who's constantly licking and biting in the face, as we would. It's like, you know, when you get to our age, you don't necessarily want to be around toddlers, human babies, but teenagers are okay. You know, it's that kind of, you've got to find what works for you. Just a few examples.
That's a benefit of being successful, is you can choose, and it's better off for the client group and dog group when you do select.
Yeah. And I think I can add one more, which should actually be probably one of the most important besides the aggression issue, is if you have a dog coming in, you want to be able to have the owner of that dog work with you, especially if their dogs have got some kind of behavioral issues. You want to be able to have a discussion with the client and have them understand what you're saying and work with you to solve the problem and to work the dog through the issues, as opposed to somebody saying, oh no, my dog's perfect and you're wrong, and you know what I mean? So having that kind of interaction with somebody who is actually going to listen to the expertise that Jason has, and he, you know, he knows a lot about dogs, and they need to understand that he knows what he's talking about. And it's only to help them.
I've had a couple of well, I'd say it's instances where you'll speak to a client about a behavior that you identified in their dog and explain to them where that's going and what's going to end up happening if they just leave it. And I've had a couple of them, raise their eyebrows and look at me like I was crazy. And then a couple of weeks to months later, oh, my dog did what you said it was going to. Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
And now they want help.
Now we want help. Oh, okay. Right.
Yes.
So, but looking on the bright side, it's all. I mean, even people who think you're outright mad and that can't be true, and how could you know that? It's just experience.
Yeah.
And then when they figure out, because I mean, there's so much going on in the dog world right now. There's so much information, and so much of it is just ridiculous. And there's YouTube, and there's the internet's just a wealth of information.
Yeah.
A lot of it's valuable, a lot of it's useful, a lot of it isn't. A lot of it's absolute rot and
Subjective.
sadly, a lot of people are falling into this and trying these techniques and methods that just can't possibly work with your dog. You're actually making things worse. But it's not your dog. You can't say anything. Just got to let them work it out on their own.
Yeah.
And when they're ready, then then they identify. Oh, but you predicted this was going to happen. So you must be able to, you must know something. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been able to do that. And then they'll come to you for help. So it does help.
That's the difference. I think that's your added value, Angela and Jason. You guys are the ones that are the team. You guys have done this many times. You've been on the reality show for 2 seasons. You may have another season coming up. You have you're picking the right clients for your benefit, but also their benefit, because you're going to bring them into it a different way. If they care about their animal, their advantage is to use you. If they don't care, well, it's not to your advantage. You're not going to be able to help each other anyway. So they got to find their own way.
Yeah.
So and then the relationship between you and your client's dog shows from the dog.
Yeah.
So when they come in the morning and the dog sees you, the dog will drag them over and you're not supposed to. And then you tell them, look, under the circumstances, I missed you too, buddy, or whatever.
Yeah.
So yes, I understand you don't want your dog pulling on the leash, but pick your battles. The dog's just seen somebody that might as well be family because they see them every day and spend more time with that person than they do with you.
Yeah.
So yes, they get a bit excited to see that person.
Yeah.
And don't come down on them too hard for it, because and then the client seeing their own dog's response to you actually does half the job.
Yeah, sure. I can guess that. Yeah. I mean, if we were to, and we're thinking about this from time to time, we've never used one, but we've got a nice rough coat collie type, Lassie type of dog. Okay. And we like she's very well behaved because we work with her. And if she shows that while we're gone to someone else, no one's going to get that business. No one else. I mean, that's it's pointless to look. We've already got that relationship. The dog has the relationship. Why even change anything?
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
So we've had, well, I suppose the correct term will be, we've had business follow us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Business follow us. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's another nice thing about being in a country like New Zealand. It is that much smaller than where we're from. So you do build up a reputation, and you will have repeat customers because they might have multiple dogs, or they would, by word of mouth, they would let friends and family know that I work with this person and they did wonders for my dog. So here's some more business coming your way.
Good. A lot of ideas.
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you for your time. I value this relationship that we've got. It went from a business to a more personal thing. I'll get you I'll respond to you in the next day or so with something.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Take care, Angela. Bye, Jason.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.